Imagine a time when the world was young, when mountains carried the voices of gods and rivers whispered divine secrets across the land. In that ancient age, humanity lived simply warmed by fire, a gift that changed their destiny forever. But fire was not a gift freely offered. It was stolen by Prometheus, the clever titan who dared to defy Zeus, king of the gods. Zeus, mighty and wise, watched as humans thrived, building and dreaming beyond the limits once set for them. He knew balance was shifting, for every gift carried a price, and the scale of fate had begun to tip. So Zeus conceived a plan, one both beautiful and fateful, to restore harmony in a way only a god could imagine. From the skilled hands of Hephaestus and the blessings of every Olympian, a wondrous creation took shape. She was Pandora, the first woman, radiant and graceful, carrying within her all the gifts of the gods. But hidden in her presence was more than beauty and charm. She carried a mystery, a seed of change. Tonight, we follow her journey not of wrath or ruin, but of wonder, curiosity, and a choice that reshaped humanity. This is the story of Zeus and Pandora, the gift that changed humanity forever. Before Pandora stepped into the world, humanity's life was far simpler, almost dreamlike, untouched by the struggles we now know so well. Men and women lived close to the earth, rising with the dawn, resting under the stars, their days filled with light and their nights calm and eternal. In that golden age, people did not fear sickness or age. Their lives were steady, balanced, and blessed with a purity that has long since faded. Yet there was something missing. Humanity had no fire. Without fire, food was eaten raw, nights were dark and cold, and forests remained mysterious places, full of unseen shadows. The gods guarded fire carefully, for Zeus believed flame was not just light, but power itself dangerous in unworthy hands. And so people lived in innocence, unaware of what they were denied, content with the simple gifts of earth and sky. But Prometheus, the clever titan, looked upon them with compassion. He saw their potential hidden beneath their struggles. He believed they were meant for more, destined to rise beyond the limits the gods had set for them. One night, under the glittering stars of Olympus, Prometheus made a daring choice. He would give fire to humanity. When flames first touched human hands, everything changed. Warmth spread through their homes, and food was cooked with rich and savory scents. They gathered around the hearth, telling stories, singing, and laughing deep into the night, their fears fading with the shadows. Fire gave courage. Fire gave vision. Fire lit a spark within them that would never be extinguished. With flame, they built stronger homes, forged tools, and shaped metals into wonders never before imagined. It was as though fire awakened a restless spirit within them, a desire to create, to dream, to reach for more. But the gods of Olympus watched closely. Some admired Prometheus's gift. Others feared what humans might become. Zeus, wise and stern, saw both greatness and danger in this new power, knowing every gift carries a cost. The world before Pandora was not perfect, but it was pure, untouched by toil, suffering, or despair. Now, with fire burning on earth, a new chapter had begun, one that could never be undone, for another gift was coming. A gift of beauty, mystery, and curiosity, wrapped not in flame but in destiny. That gift was Pandora, and with her arrival, the balance of humanity would shift forever. For now, though, people celebrated, unaware of what lay ahead, their fires crackling with the promise of a brighter age. Each flame flickered with destiny, drawing them closer to the moment when everything would change. The story of fire is not only about humanity. At its heart, it is about Prometheus, the titan whose vision for humankind defied the will of Zeus. Prometheus was no ordinary figure. His name meant forethought. And unlike other titans, he still walked close to humanity, always watching, always planning ahead. Where others saw fragile creatures, Prometheus saw potential. He admired their persistence, their adaptability, and their quiet courage beneath the vast and uncertain sky. Disguised in humble form, he often walked among them, He saw their hands raw from labor, their nights silent and cold, their eyes full of longing for knowledge. To him, humanity was not a mistake, but a beginning, a spark waiting to be lit, a dream waiting to be awakened, a future waiting to unfold. When he saw fire locked away on Olympus, hidden from mortal reach, he felt it was unjust. Why should such a gift remain beyond their grasp? Prometheus imagined a world where humans stood tall, warmed by flame, empowered to shape their destiny with strength, art, and creation. He knew Zeus well, and he knew the risks. Defying the king of the gods was dangerous, yet his compassion outweighed his fear. Some say he stole fire in a fennel stalk, carrying the flame in secret. Others say he tricked the gods with clever words. However it happened, he succeeded. When humans first touched fire, everything changed. They cooked their food, filled the air with warmth, and for the first time gathered around glowing hearths. They told stories, sang songs, and laughed deep into the night. The shadows no longer ruled them. Fire lit their courage and their dreams. With fire, they built tools, forged metals, and shaped stronger homes. The restless spirit within them awakened, reaching for creation and discovery. But Olympus watched. Some gods admired Prometheus's gift. Others whispered warnings, fearing what humans might one day become. Zeus, wise and stern, saw both wonder and danger. He knew every gift demanded a cost, and balance had now been broken. Prometheus was unafraid. He trusted in human resilience, believing they could endure trials and rise stronger than even the gods imagined. To mortals, he was their benefactor, their teacher, the bringer of fire who believed in their worth. To gods, he was a rebel, a reminder that even titans could challenge Olympus and the authority of Zeus. This tension between divine rule and mortal progress grew heavy, and Zeus, though patient, would not leave it unanswered. For Zeus understood something Prometheus had not. Fire was only the beginning. Humanity's journey was about to face a greater test. In the halls of Olympus, Zeus began to form a plan. Not with punishment, but with beauty, mystery, and the spark of curiosity. That plan would soon take shape as Pandora, a gift and a trial, carrying within her the power to change humanity forever. From the high throne of Olympus, Zeus gazed upon the earth below. The glow of fire spread across villages, casting warmth into the once dark night. Mortals gathered around the flames, their laughter rising into the sky. They were no longer helpless beings trembling in the shadows. With fire, they became builders, creators, and dreamers of new worlds. Zeus, king of the gods, felt both admiration and concern in his heart. Prometheus had acted with cleverness, giving mortals a divine power. But Zeus knew that gifts without balance could bring dangerous consequences. The universe thrived on harmony, day and night, storm and calm, life and death. Now fire, once sacred, burned in mortal hands, with both promise and peril. It could warm their homes, but it could also destroy their fields. It could spark courage, but it could also awaken pride and recklessness. Prometheus had acted with compassion, but compassion alone was not enough. Order must be kept, and balance must guide the path of creation. If mortals could take fire, what else might they dare to demand? Zeus resolved to act, not with blind rage, but with divine strategy. His plan would not simply punish, it would restore cosmic equilibrium. From the marble halls of Olympus, he summoned the gods together. Thunder rolled in his voice as he spoke of fire and humanity. Mortals now hold a gift once belonging to us, he declared. They laugh beneath its glow, forgetting the line between God and man. But we shall remind them. We shall shape their destiny with care. Some gods nodded with concern, fearing the rise of mortal strength. Others smiled knowingly, curious about Zeus's hidden design. Then Zeus revealed his idea, a gift wrapped in beauty and mystery. Not all gifts, he said, are blessings. Some carry hidden trials. He would not take fire away. That chance was gone forever. Instead, he would give them a creation they could never refuse. A gift that taught lessons no flame could ever teach. From the forge of Hephaestus, a new being would be crafted, not a tool or a weapon, but a person shaped with divine care. Each god would add a blessing: beauty, charm, grace, music, and curiosity. Together, these gifts would form a creation unlike any before. Mortals would welcome this gift, blinded by its radiant allure, and in that choice, they would discover truths of strength and frailty. The gods agreed, voices rising like winds across Olympus's peaks. Some gave their blessings eagerly, others with careful hesitation. But all knew the world's balance was shifting under Zeus's will. Zeus looked once more upon the earth, glowing with firelight. Mortals laughed, unaware of the destiny soon to arrive. For soon another presence would walk among them with grace. Gentle, radiant, and filled with unending mystery, she would appear. The plan was set. The wheels of fate had begun to turn, and out of Zeus's wisdom, foresight, and cunning, Pandora would be born. The halls of Olympus echoed as Zeus's plan took form. Hephaestus, master of the forge, prepared to shape something never seen before. From clay and breath, he molded the form of a woman, strong yet delicate, graceful yet mysterious. She was unlike any creation. His hands carved not just a body, but the outline of destiny itself. When complete, life was breathed into her, and she opened her eyes. The world seemed to pause, as if holding its breath in awe. She was Pandora, the first woman, born of divine hands and intent. But her creation was not Hephaestus's work alone. All the gods took part. Aphrodite gave her beauty so radiant, it stirred wonder in every gaze. Hermes gifted her charm, words flowing like music to captivate all. Athena bestowed wisdom and skill, grace in thought, and craft alike. The graces adorned her with allure, and the hours with harmony. Apollo gave her a voice that carried melodies sweeter than songbirds. Yet hidden among blessings was a spark of deep curiosity. It nestled quietly within her soul, waiting for its destined hour. The gods marveled at their creation, radiant and alive before them. She was balance, made flesh, an answer to fire, a test for men. Zeus watched, his expression calm yet filled with unspoken design. Mortals would see her as a blessing, unaware of her deeper weight. Her name, Pandora, meant all gifted, for she carried every divine gift. But within her shimmered the mystery of fate, unseen and inevitable. When she walked, the earth welcomed her steps with gentle reverence. Her laughter flowed like streams, refreshing yet carrying hidden depths. Eyes followed her wherever she went, hearts stirred by her presence. Zeus, satisfied, knew Pandora's place was not here in Olympus. She belonged in the world below, among mortals lit by fire. The gods stepped back, their gifts woven into one living being. She stood as a paradox, innocent and wise, gentle yet powerful. Her presence promised joy, but also the lessons of sorrow. Pandora's journey was only beginning, her destiny yet unseen. Olympus held its breath, waiting for her first step into the mortal world. From the heights of Olympus, Pandora stood radiant, alive with divine gifts. She was beauty, charm, grace, and curiosity woven into one living being. But her place was not among gods. She was meant for earth. Zeus, in wisdom, gave her a sealed jar to carry with her. It was heavy with mystery, crafted with purpose, hidden from her eyes. Hermes, swift and cunning, guided her down through clouds to mortals. For Pandora, every step into this world was filled with wonder. She breathed air scented with earth, sea, and fields of green. Her eyes widened at rivers winding like silver threads across land. She saw mortals tending fire, their faces glowing in its light. When they beheld her, silence fell, broken by whispers of awe. To them, she seemed a vision, a gift from heaven itself. Yet beside her was the jar, sealed and secret in its weight. She herself did not know its contents, only that it was hers. Curiosity stirred in her heart, a quiet question never at rest. The mortals welcomed her, grateful for the beauty and grace she brought. She learned their ways, planting, singing, sharing bread by the hearth. Her laughter softened homes. Her voice lifted hearts with gentle song. Yet always the jar remained near, silent, waiting, never forgotten. Some wondered at it, others feared, whispering of hidden power. Why would God send a gift of such beauty with mystery bound. Among mortals, one was destined to stand closest to Epimetheus. Though warned by Prometheus, he was captivated by Pandora's presence. Her kindness disarmed him. Her beauty softened all his doubts. Soon, affection grew between them, natural as night follows day. Pandora became part of mortal life, woven into their days. Still, the jar lingered like a shadow beneath sunlight's glow. It sat untouched, but its presence whispered of destiny ahead. Zeus had planned balance, for not every gift shines without shadow. Fire had given mortals strength. Pandora would bring humility. She lived, she loved, she learned, unaware of fate's weight. For the jar was more than clay, and seal it was destiny. And in time, curiosity would meet it, and the world would change. Pandora's life among mortals bloomed like spring after a long winter. Her laughter softened hearts. Her presence filled homes with warmth and light. Yet always by her side remained the sealed jar, quiet but unignorable. It sat in her dwelling, simple in shape, yet heavy with unseen meaning. To others, it was a vessel, but to Pandora it was a whisper. Each time she passed, curiosity tugged softly, asking questions without answers. What lay within? Why had Zeus entrusted her with this sealed gift? At night, silence deepened, and her eyes lingered on its outline. Moonlight made it glow faintly, as though urging her closer to truth. Her hand often reached out, trembling, but she pulled away in restraint. By day, she shared joy with Epimetheus, kind and ever devoted. Together they worked the land, tended the fire, and laughed beneath stars. Yet in her heart, the jar remained, a shadow against her peace. Epimetheus once asked, "Why keep it close, yet never lift the lid?" She smiled but answered softly, "It is mine, though I know not why." The villagers whispered of blessings, treasures, or perhaps hidden danger inside. Some thought it held abundance, others feared curses too great to bear. The whispers only deepened Pandora's restless wonder and quiet longing. What if it was meant to help? A gift too long concealed? Could it hold wisdom, like Prometheus's fire, to lift mortals higher? Her dreams grew restless, filled with visions of light and shadow. Sometimes she saw brilliance pouring forth. Sometimes darkness she could not name. The gods watched silently, for Zeus had woven curiosity into her fate. Her longing was not weakness, but the path laid before her steps. One cool evening, stars glimmered as she sat alone by the jar. Her fingers traced its smooth clay, her breath catching in quiet wonder. Why should a gift remain unopened? She whispered into the silence. Her hand rested on the seal, her heart racing with fear and desire. The jar was no longer just an object, it was a question, and her heart yearned for an answer that silence could not give. Though she did not yet break the seal, destiny pressed upon her. The moment of choice was coming, and it would change humankind forever. The days passed, yet the jar stayed sealed, while Pandora's heart grew heavier. Curiosity was no longer a whisper, but a voice echoing in her thoughts. In the fields with Epimetheus, her gaze drifted back to the dwelling. At night by the fire, her mind circled the question. Asterisk. What lies within? Asterisk. Epimetheus sensed her unease and spoke with kindness and care. Not all gifts must be unwrapped at once. Some are meant to wait. She smiled faintly, but his words only deepened her restless fire. Why would a gift be given, only to remain untouched forever? Each sunrise, the jar's pull grew stronger, as if alive with energy. It seemed to hum softly, carrying a presence beyond her reach. Her dreams grew vivid, showing both light and shadow within. In one dream, brilliance poured out, bathing the world in beauty. In another, darkness spilled forth, swallowing rivers and fields. She woke trembling, unsure which vision was closer to truth. The villagers grew used to the jar, though some feared its presence. To Pandora, it was neither curse nor blessing. It was a question. And questions, she felt, were never meant to remain unanswered. One afternoon beneath olive trees, she wove flowers in silence. The wind whispered through branches, sounding like words. Asterisk! Open it! Asterisk! She froze, her gaze drawn toward the dwelling where the jar waited. Was it only the wind, or something deeper calling her name? The whisper clung to her, threading into her every thought. From Olympus, Zeus smiled faintly, watching destiny take its shape. The jar was a turning point, not just a test or trick. That night, Pandora and Epimetheus shared a simple meal together. She tried to focus on laughter, yet the jar weighed on her. When he slept, she lay awake, her mind restless and unsettled. Quietly she rose, moving softly, guided by moonlight on the floor. The jar sat waiting, silent yet brimming with invisible power. Her fingers brushed the seal, cool and firm beneath her touch. Her heart pounded so loudly she feared it might wake him. She longed to know, yet fear held her in place. The seal was strong, but her desire burned even stronger. Suddenly she pulled back, clutching her hands against her chest. "Not tonight," she whispered, forcing herself to step away. But in her heart, she knew the moment drew closer still. The jar would not remain sealed forever. Destiny pressed upon her, and she felt the fate of humankind rested in her hands. The jar remained sealed, silent, yet alive in Pandora's thoughts. She tried to live as before, tending the hearth, sharing joy with Epimetheus, but the mystery of the jar never left her mind. Each glance toward it deepened her restlessness. The seal was more than wax upon clay. It was a wall between knowing and not knowing, and that wall grew heavier with each passing day. She whispered to herself, "It is only a vessel, only a gift." But the thought never soothed her. Why would the gods leave such beauty within reach, if not for it to be opened? Days turned into weeks. Her laughter remained bright, yet shadowed by something unspoken. Even in joy, her spirit circled endlessly around the jar. Epimetheus noticed the tremor in her hands, the distance in her gaze. One evening he said, "Do not let it consume you." Pandora wished to promise him she would resist, but deep down, she knew she could not. At night, she dreamed of voices, some gentle, promising wisdom, others urgent, warning her to turn away. She woke each morning torn between longing and dread. The whispers of mortals grew louder. "Why does she guard it so closely?" they asked. "What lies within, hidden from us by the gods?" The weight of their questions pressed heavily upon her heart. One afternoon, alone, Pandora sat before the jar in silence. Sunlight spilled across the clay, her reflection glinting faintly on its surface. Her hand hovered near the seal, trembling. "What are you?" she whispered. "Gift or curse?" No answer came, only a stirring presence, unseen but felt. Zeus watched from Olympus, knowing the moment neared. She was not meant to resist forever. She was meant to choose. That night, by the fire, Epimetheus spoke again. "I fear you will do what cannot be undone." Tears rose in Pandora's eyes. "I do not wish to harm," she whispered, "but my heart will not rest." He said nothing more, but fear filled his gaze. It followed her into her dreams, where the voices grew louder still. By dawn, she knew the truth. The jar was not only a gift, it was destiny, and destiny cannot be silenced. The seal would not hold much longer. The world was waiting for what would come next. The days grew heavier as Pandora's curiosity deepened. She tried to resist, pretending the jar was only a gift left to gather dust. But the truth pressed harder with each passing moment. The jar seemed to hum with quiet energy, a rhythm only she could feel. It called to her in a language unspoken, yet deeply felt. Every morning she rose with Epimetheus, tending hearth and home. She smiled at neighbors, yet her heart carried a secret question. Asterisk, what waits inside? Asterisk, the thought no longer passed, it lived within her. At times, she hated the jar. At times, she loved it. And always, she feared it. Epimetheus tried to comfort her, though unease touched his spirit too. He never laid a hand on the jar, yet he knew it bore weight. One evening, as twilight fell, Pandora sat by the fire. Her gaze lingered on the jar, glowing faintly in the light. "Why would the gods give this if not to be opened?" she whispered. Silence answered, heavy and unyielding. That night, her dreams returned. She saw herself standing before the jar once more. Voices within were louder, some beckoning, some warning. Her hand trembled in the dream as it reached for the lid, but the vision always ended before truth was revealed. Sleep became no refuge, only another battlefield. Each day she swore to forget. Each night the jar returned. It was as though the gods had woven temptation into her soul. The people too began to notice her distance. They whispered, "What secret does she guard?" Their doubts deepened her desire, fueling the fire within. One quiet afternoon, she was left alone. The jar gleamed in the sunlight, its seal glowing faintly. Her hand hovered near it, trembling with both fear and longing. "If I open it, will I free a gift or a curse?" she whispered. Her heart raced as voices pressed close to the lid. She felt both terror and power. For the first time, she understood choice itself was a gift. The gods set the stage, but she alone could act. Pandora drew her hand back, shivering. "Not today. Not yet," she whispered. But she knew resistance was fading. Each pose made desire stronger. On Olympus, Zeus watched with calm eyes. He had given fire. Through Pandora, he would give something greater. That night, she sat awake by the fire, staring at the jar. Shadows danced, flames flickered, and destiny pressed close. "Perhaps tomorrow," she whispered. "Perhaps tomorrow I will know." And tomorrow was already waiting. The night was quiet, yet Pandora's heart raged with storms. Every breath she took was heavy with unspoken desire. The jar sat sealed in the corner, glowing faintly, waiting for her hand. She tried to busy herself, folding cloth, tending fire, humming, but her thoughts circled back again and again to the gift. The seal seemed weaker, or perhaps it was her imagination. Still, it pulled her closer with unseen force. By dawn, she could no longer resist. Her body moved with one purpose, though her heart trembled. Each step toward the jar echoed in her chest like thunder. The voices inside stirred, soft murmurs brushing her ears. They were sweet, tempting, impossible to ignore. Her hands touched the lid, breath uneven, pulse racing. Time itself seemed to hesitate. The world held its breath, watching in silence. Even the birds fell quiet, sensing what neared. Pandora whispered, "Just a glimpse. Only once." Her fingers pressed against the seal. The lid cracked softly, breaking the silence. Cold air rushed out, swirling like unseen wings. Her eyes widened with awe and fear. The lid rose higher in her trembling hands. Shadows poured forth, darting into the air. They scattered, filling the room, fleeing into the world. Pandora gasped and fought to close the jar, but the storm was too strong. The jar alive. Sickness escaped first, sharp and unseen. Then sorrow followed, heavy upon human hearts. Despair, fear, jealousy, and anger rushed forth. Pandora cried out, "No, return!" But the plea was lost in the chaos. The sky darkened, though the sun still shone. The world itself seemed to mourn the release. Her tears fell as she forced the lid shut. Silence returned. The jar cooled beneath her hands. She clung to it, trembling, heart pounding wildly. Then she heard a faint sound inside. Not a curse, but a gentle whisper. She pressed her ear to the jar. Something remained, glowing faintly in the dark. It did not flee like the others. Its voice was warm, like sunlight after rain. It was hope. Though sorrow walked freely, hope had chosen to stay. It would not abandon mortals in their darkest hours. It would be the light to guide them on. Pandora wept softly, her fear turning to reverence. Her mistake had changed the world forever. Yet within it lay a gift greater than she knew. She sealed the jar with trembling hands once more. This time, not with fear, but with understanding. As long as hope remained, humanity would endure. Above, Zeus watched with steady gaze. His plan was complete. Fire, suffering, and hope. Through Pandora, the story of humankind began. The story of Pandora and her jar did not end with the release of evils. It was only the beginning of a transformation that touched every mortal life. The forces of sorrow, hunger, jealousy, and fear crept quietly into the world. They found homes in human hearts, weaving themselves into daily struggles. At first, people were bewildered by these new feelings and sudden conflicts. They asked why friendships fractured and why joy could turn so quickly to envy. Why did trust so easily collapse into suspicion and peace into quarrels? It was as though a shadow had fallen, dimming the brightness of their lives. Pandora saw these changes with pain heavy in her heart. She noticed farmers hoarding food where once they freely shared. She heard neighbors whispering with suspicion instead of warm greetings. She felt guilt and loneliness, knowing she had lifted the lid of the jar. Yet humanity too was awakening to a truth that could not be forgotten. Life had grown more complex, and choices now carried greater weight. To give meant resisting greed. To forgive meant wrestling with anger. To trust meant risking betrayal. And to love meant facing loss. But within this struggle, new sparks of courage began to emerge. People lifted one another when despair threatened to drag them down. Kindness pushed back against envy, and hope resisted the weight of fear. The evils were real, but so was the human spirit that fought them. From Olympus, Zeus watched this unfolding with a satisfied gaze. What he had given as punishment had also become a strange kind of gift. Through hardship, mortals discovered strength that comfort alone could not bring. Yet not all gods agreed with Zeus's harsh vision for humanity. Some pitied mortals for their heavy burden of suffering and doubt. Others believed it was necessary, a lesson carved into mortal hearts. Still, Zeus's will was firm, and his decision shaped the path ahead. Mortals would walk this road guided not by gods, but by their own choices. Pandora clung to the memory of what she had seen in the jar. At the very bottom, hidden beneath darkness, something bright had remained. It was hope, fragile, small, but resilient and unyielding in its presence. Hope whispered to Pandora in her loneliest, most painful moments. It reminded her that even in a darker world, light still endured. Hope became a thread for humanity, weaving strength in quiet ways. Stories of hope spread around fires and echoed through nightly songs. Mothers passed it to children, soothing fears with gentle words of light. Travelers carried it from village to village, lifting weary hearts. Though shadows spread across the world, they never claimed victory. For hope endured quietly, unseen yet unbroken, always near at hand. This was Pandora's paradox, the gift hidden within her mistake. Evils had been unleashed, but resilience was born in their wake. The world could not return to innocence, but it gained something greater. Humanity learned to walk forward, carrying both shadow and light together. As the years passed, the story of Pandora and her jar became more than a tale. It grew into a memory carried by every village, every family, every traveler. Humanity once lived untouched by envy, hunger, or despair. But now, no life was free from shadow, and no heart untouched by fear. Fields suffered not only storms, but the weight of greed and mistrust. Relationships grew heavier, colored by jealousy, longing, and suspicion. These feelings became part of what it meant to be human. Yet in remembering Pandora's jar, people found lessons within sorrow. Parents told children that choices carry power and must be respected. Elders warned that curiosity without patience can lead to grief. The story became a guide, shaping daily life and every decision. Pandora carried the heaviest memory of all within her heart. She saw quarrels and wondered if her hand had sparked them. She heard hunger in a child's cry and felt sorrow inside. But she also saw resilience glowing quietly within humanity. She saw mothers calming children with gentle songs of comfort. She saw strangers sharing bread by a fire in the night. She heard laughter rising even when hardships surrounded them. Then she knew her act had not destroyed humanity, but revealed it. For to be human is to rise even when shadows fall. On Olympus, the gods watched as the memory shaped mortals. Some pitied them, others turned away, but Zeus stood firm. "Let them remember," he said, "for memory shapes deeper than comfort." Mortals felt this truth, for memory gave weight to every act. When one forgave, they recalled that hope still endured. When one wronged another, they remembered the darkness of the jar. Memory became both a wound and a teacher for humanity. The story of Pandora grew into myth, song, and proverb. Poets wove it into verse, and musicians carried it in melody. Philosophers pondered its meaning, drawing wisdom from its depth. Pandora herself grew older. Her beauty softened into wisdom. Some say she vanished into the hills, seeking quiet solitude. Others believed she walked among mortals, guiding with unseen hands. Her memory lived on, not villain, not saint, but a reminder. The jar became more than punishment. It became a mirror. It reflected light and shadow, joy and sorrow, despair and hope. These opposites could not exist apart, but only woven together. Perhaps this was the true gift hidden within Pandora's jar. Not only suffering, nor even hope, but memory itself. A memory that urged humanity to reflect, to grow, to endure. For as long as memory lived, so too did the chance to choose better. Generations passed, but Pandora's story lived on. It echoed in firelight tales, in songs sung by wanderers, in memories that clung to families. Sorrow remained, hardship endured, yet hope stayed with mortals. In villages, hope was always present, quiet but steady. Farmers planted seeds with faith the soil would answer. Fishermen cast nets, not just into the sea, but into the promise of tomorrow. Warriors marched, fearful but holding on to hope for peace. Hope was no thunder, no blazing sun, but a soft, enduring flame. It lived in whispered prayers, in a parent's watchful eyes, in towns rebuilt after ruin. Even the gods saw it. Zeus, stern and unyielding, could not deny hope's strength. Hera noticed how it bound families together. Athena admired how mortals turned pain into wisdom. Hermes, trickster though he was, carried tales of human courage with quiet respect. Pandora herself became more than blame. Some cursed her as the bringer of suffering. Others honored her as the one who left humanity with a chance to grow. She was both, and perhaps that was the lesson. Mistakes, too, can carry meaning. Mortals began to honor hope in festivals of endurance. Songs praised not only gods, but the courage of men and women who rose again. Children learned to stumble is not to fail, as long as you rise with hope. Yet hope was fragile, tested by despair. At times it flickered, as if it might vanish, but it never left. It remained, however faint, waiting for hearts to hold it again. From sorrow came resilience, a truth even the gods had not foreseen. For courage means little without fear. Kindness shines brighter beside cruelty. And hope is only hope because of the darkness around it. Philosophers said the jar was a mirror of life itself. The jar, they taught, is the human heart filled with sorrow and hope alike. In opening it, we discover who we are. These words traveled, shaping thought, guiding choices, offering comfort. The echoes of hope rippled outward. They touched lives in ways both subtle and profound. Pandora had changed the world forever. Yet humanity was not powerless. Within their hands, within their hearts, they carried the one force to endure all hope. Time moved on, and the world learned to live with the new reality. The hardships from Pandora's jar no longer seemed like strangers, but daily companions. Sickness, jealousy, and toil shadowed human lives. Yet people adapted. Amid the weight of struggle, something brighter remained hope. Pandora carried the memory of her choice like a stone in her heart. She often sat in silence, watching horizons and listening to the wind's whispers. Her gift had been both a burden and a light, never one without the other. She could not undo the troubles, but she saw resilience rise in their wake. She noticed farmers striving harder when fields failed them. She saw friends care for one another when sickness spread. She heard laughter in simple gatherings despite sorrow's shadow. Hope was not just an idea. It was a living thread binding them together. Pandora often wondered if Zeus had foreseen such a balance. Had he meant only to punish or to strengthen them through trial? She realized perfection was never the goal. Life was meant to be lived fully. One day, she watched a child fall while running, tears streaming. Moments later, the child rose, brushed away the pain, and ran again. She smiled, recognizing humanity's reflection in that simple act. They stumble, they suffer, yet they rise again And again, her heart softened. No longer seeing herself as the bringer of doom, she became the guardian of hope, holding the spark that guides forward. That night beneath the stars, she whispered to the endless sky. "I did not curse them," she said softly. "I gave them the chance to endure." The stars glimmered brighter. As if agreeing with her quiet truth, Pandora breathed deeply, accepting her place in the grand design. Hope had not been an accident, it was destiny's hidden gift. And humanity, though burdened, was never without light. The story of Pandora did not end with the closing of the jar. It lived on, whispered across generations, shaping how humans understood themselves. Each retelling carried the memory of what was lost and what endured. For ancient people, Pandora's tale explained why life was filled with trials. Illness, envy, fatigue, and grief were not random, they had an ancient origin. Yet even with these hardships, one force never abandoned humanity: hope. Hope became more than comfort. It became a compass guiding their days. Farmers planted seeds again. Even after storms had ruined their crops, families gathered around fires, singing songs after long, heavy days. Hope was the invisible thread stitching lives together through sorrow and joy. Pandora's role slowly transformed in the hearts of many who remembered. She was no longer just the one who unleashed suffering into the world. She became a symbol of endurance, the keeper of light in darkness. People realized without her, they might never have discovered resilience. Some storytellers imagined Zeus smiling quietly as mortals rose after falling. Others believed his punishment softened as he saw their strength grow. The gods might test mortals, but hope gave them unbreakable resolve. Pandora appeared in art, painted beautiful yet sorrowful with her vessel. Poets called her a muse for reflection on fate and endurance. Her legacy was complex, but it remained unforgettable through time. As centuries passed, her story traveled across lands and languages. Each culture shaped it slightly differently, yet the heart remained unchanged. Life would always bring struggle, but hope would always endure. The myth became less about the jar and more about the lesson. It was not only a warning of curiosity or divine punishment. It was a tale of balance, of light against shadow, of living. Even when the world was harsh, there was always a way forward. Pandora's story was not one of despair, but of humanity itself. As long as people remembered, they carried her gift within: the strength to endure, the courage to hope, and the will to rise.